What hip-hop duo was originally thought of to head the 1990 classic teen party film, House Party? Whose real-life home was used as the setting for the party at Play's house? Comedian John Witherspoon and actor B.B. Drake played husband and wife in House Party. What other classic comedy did this couple play husband and wife? These and more questions will be answered on this episode of
Back Look Cinema, the podcast.
I wouldn't do that just yet, cause your ass is mine. I'm gonna whip that goddamn high top fade off of you. I'm sick of your shit. I done worked too hard and too long to let you run all over me like you out of your goddamn mind. I done walked across this damn city, got stopped by the goddamn law looking for your monkey ass. All you kids over there just slow dancing and grinding, and there were people in there hiding, but I know your ass was there. What you? I'm running the show around here. I'm wearing the pants and the apron, and I'm wearing your ass out. I'm gonna whip you till I get sleepy, and I'm wide awoke because I just woke up. You think because you're big and yellow, I'm supposed to be like mellow? Hell no! I start a fight in the empty room. You call child abuse if you want to, but they better not come in here, cause I kick their ass too. I'm gonna give you a whipping from now on. I'm gonna whip you the cowboy shit out of you. Yeah! Now get your ass to bed and don't wake up till I tell you to. Hello, friends. My name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. Welcome back. This is the 214th episode of Back Look Cinema, the podcast, where we take a look back at the movies of yesteryear, especially the movies of the latter half of the last millennia. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell your classmates and prospective girlfriends or boyfriends about the party over at Back Look Cinema. Throughout the 80s and 90s, hip-hop artists started making their way into cinemas. Ice Cube, Ice-T, Will Smith, DMX, Queen Latifah, Redman, and Method Man all made impressive appearances in film and television, but one rap duo that's often forgotten is Christopher Reid and Christopher Martin, better known as Kid and Play. Christopher Kid Reid and Christopher Play Martin met while performing for rival high school hip-hop groups, with Reid originally known as Kid Coolant in The Turnout Brothers, and Martin originally known as Playboy in Super Lovers. Reid and Martin later joined and formed their own group with their DJ, Mark DJ Wiz Eastman, called the Fresh Force Crew, and recorded She's a Skeezer and Rock Me in 1986. By the next year, they changed their name to Kid and Play and released their first album in 1988, Too Hype. They later transitioned to film primarily with their high school hijinks comedy series, House Party. As a duo, they only did one film outside of that series called Class Act. Kid and Play's music was radio-friendly, youth-oriented, pop-style dance party music. It was the style of music that I gravitated towards, as it was in the same vein as DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Young MC, Heavy D and the Boys, Salt and Pepper, and Biz Markie are some examples. They were one of my favorite rap groups from back in the day. They're as much known for their dancing as well as their rapping that exploded with energy and finesse that I thought was exciting, and me and my friends would often try to emulate. The dance that Kid and Play developed was a variation of the Charleston that was known as the Kid and Play Kickstep or the Funky Charleston. The youthful energy and carefree attitude exhibited by Kid Reid and Play Martin helped them to portray high school students in their late 20s and early 30s. Let's talk about the movie that started their acting career when Reid was 25 and Martin was 27. 1990's House Party. Chris, known as Kid to his friends, and Peter, known as Play to those same friends, cooked up a plan to have a house party at Peter's house. The occasion? Peter's parents are away on vacation, and there's no better time for a teenage house party than when the parents are away. When the parents are gone, then unsupervised kids will play. Masterminding the plan, Peter ropes in their friend Bilal to DJ the event, and they invite all their friends. The one hiccup for Chris, though, is that he got into a fight at school. He either has to keep his pops from learning about the fight or, failing that, find a way to sneak out of the house to get to the party, all while avoiding both his high school bullies and racist cops. One wonders if either Chris or Peter will learn the lessons of friendship and loyalty. House Party was released March 9th, 1990, produced by the Jackson McHenry Company, New Line Cinema, and the Hudlin brothers. It grossed over $26 million in the US and Canada on a reported budget of $2.5 million. That is incredible. That's like tenfold of the budget. That is what you want when you're making a movie. Ideally, you want to make it for as little money as possible and get as much profit as possible. And I talked about something like this in the earlier podcast about how you usually have, especially movies by and about Black and brown folk, they're usually low budget movies. Studios don't trust that they're going to get their money back, and they are very hesitant to fund projects of this sort. So they tend to be movies on the lower end of the budget, but at the same time, they tend to bring in a lot of profit. So, and also in this case, it was just right, because if they funded this movie for $26 million or even $10 million, this movie would have flopped. But $2.5 million seems like it was just right. If we adjusted today for inflation, that would mean that if it were made today, then the gross would have been $64 million and the budget would have been $6 million. This movie was starring Kid and Play, that being Christopher Kid Reid, who played Christopher Kid Harris, and Christopher Play Martin, who played a character named Peter Play Martin. And the both of them appeared in House Party 1, 2, and 3. And that's primarily as they act as a duo. That's what they primarily did in their career. Although Christopher Reid continues to play small parts in television and in some films, Play seems to have, for the most part, gotten out of the acting business. They also appeared in I don't know what you call it. You could call it a legacy remake or a sequel or a reboot. That was House Party from 2023. The only other film that they did as a duo was Class Act, and that's about it. Robin Harris played Pops. Presumably his name is Mr. Harris, as Christopher Reid played a character named Christopher Harris, but they never, I don't know if they ever called him Mr. Harris in the movie, or I probably missed it. You could catch Robin Harris in Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, or Harlem Nights. And we talked about Harlem Nights way back in episode 76. Martin Lawrence plays Dragon Breath Bilal. Of pretty much all of the actors who appeared in this film, he is the one that absolutely blew up. And in this appearance, this is when he was relatively unknown. He was brand new as far as in movies and television, but I think that he was a known comic, but he wasn't widely known. But it is pretty much because of the House Party series that Martin Lawrence blew up. And you could have catched him in the movie Bad Boys and all of those sequels, or Big Mama's House and some of those sequels, or Life, which is a movie that I desperately need to see and have not seen yet. Tisha Campbell plays Sydney, and you could catch her on Little Shop of Horrors, School Days, or Boomerang. And as everybody knows, she and Martin Lawrence were in the same well-received, much-beloved show called Martin. A.J. Johnson played Shireen, and you could catch her in Baby Boy, Sister Act, or School Days. Another major element of this film is Full Force. 3 members of Full Force, the musical group, played the high school bullies. Full Force is an R&B and hip-hop band. They broke out with a song they wrote for UTFO called Roxanne, Roxanne. Also, they wrote and produced songs for Patti LaBelle, Britney Spears, James Brown, Lisa Lisa and the Cult Jam, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and many others. Of the Full Force crew who were in the movies, we have Paul Anthony, who played Stab, Bow-Legged Lou, whose real name is Lucien George Jr., who played Pee-wee, and B. Fine, who's also known as Brian George, who played Zilla. John Witherspoon played Mr. Strickland, and you can catch him on the Friday series of Bullworth. And I also mentioned earlier, B.B. Drake played Mrs. Strickland. Barry Diamond played Cop Number 1, also known as Officer Boyd, and you could have caught him in Bachelor Party or Class Reunion. And Mike Newski played Cop Number 2, also known as Officer Ranowski, and you could have caught him in American Made or We Are Marshall. This movie was written and directed by Reginald Hudlin. This project was a Hudlin Brothers production, with Reginald writing and directing and Warrington producing. Besides House Party, the only other film that he's credited for writing was the screenplay for Bebe's Kids, which is a film adaptation from Robin Harris's comedy album of the same name. As a director, you might have caught Marshall, Boomerang, Ladies Man, Serving Sarah, or Candy Cane Lane, which just came out recently. This movie was composed by Rooney Hooks, Marcus Miller, and Lenny White. And while that music was, well, it did the job. It kept you emotionally involved. What I really want to talk about is the soundtrack, which was one of those outstanding soundtracks from back in the day. And for example, you have Bad Boy / Having a Party by Luther Vandross, To the Break of Dawn by LL Cool J and Marley Marr, House Party, a song by the Full Force Family featuring Full Force, Lisa Lisa and Cult Jam, UTFO, Cheryl Pepsi Riley, Dr. Ice, Ex-Girlfriend, and E-Corf. I don't know who E-Corf is. All of the other acts on this group I recognize, but I am unfamiliar with E-Corf. Also, there's Hey Love by the Delphonics, Run for Cover by Eric B. and Rakim, I Can't Do Nothing For You, Man by Flavor Flav, Kid and Play, it's Kid versus Play by Kid and Play, and Bullpen Blues by Kid and Play, even though I think that's just Play with that particular rap. And that's in for the opening credits. The only announcement I have is a great comment by @MarkCrespo-M2C, who wrote, awesome movie commentary and awesome episode, heart emoji. Thank you, Mark Crespo-M2C. I really appreciate that. That comment was left on YouTube. And if you want to leave a comment on YouTube or leave a like, please do so. I really appreciate it. It helps get the show seen and spread, and it works on the algorithm. I don't know nothing about algorithms, but I know it helps. Appreciate all you guys do. And I have one more announcement in case I've forgotten to mention it. I'd like to invite you to come over and listen to Not a Bomb Podcast, where we're going to be talking about Hype Williams' Belly, starring DMX and Nas. I'll be talking with Troy and Blad about this cult classic, and throughout our discussion, we're going to try to figure out if this movie deserves to be a bomb or not. So you can find Not a Bomb Podcast wherever you found this podcast. Just go over to their feed and check out my guest appearance and see what we thought about Belly. And now that we're done with the opening credits, let's head for our favorite parts. So as you know, I try to really get into like the themes of the movie. And it's not that the themes of this movie are elusive in any way. And I think it deals really with friendship and loyalty. Even though this is like a party movie and it really has a simplistic plot, it's really attempting to put forth some messages there. And I think the main messages have to do with friendship and loyalty. How far you will go to support your friends. It has a little bit of heart implanted within the depths of this movie. So in the movie, you have Kid and Play who have a friendly rap rivalry, but they're still friends. It's like that there are sincere feelings where they're challenging each other that leads to a rap battle in the movie. But even though they have a rivalry, they're still friends. It's like they still come together, they dap, they hug, even though they're kind of experiencing a rivalry over rapping. And then you have Sydney and Shireen. I almost said it wrong. Sydney and Shireen, they have a more contentious boy rivalry, mainly over Kid. So they're both kind of challenging each other over Kid. It's like, but at the same time, they're pretending that they don't like Kid. They're pretending like they don't like either Kid or Play. But privately, between themselves, they're kind of challenging each other over Kid. And this causes kind of like a minor rift between them. But also, they still have a love and a loyalty to each other where it's not something that allows them, they don't allow this like rivalry to tear up their friendship. Also, Play has a tendency to abuse his friends, but he's still loyal to them, but he doesn't really face any consequences for abusing his friends. But as I mentioned, he's still like affectionate towards them, but at the same time, he can be a little abusive. So that's how this film examines relationship. And at the end of the day, friends come together. Friends maintain their friendship. Their friends are still loyal. So that's how this movie plays out these themes. And I have a few favorite parts. One of my favorite things about this movie is that there are a lot of gags in this film, as it should be, because it is a comedy. And it's not a comedy light on gags. And what I really liked about the gags is that there are a lot of like subjective gags, or a lot of gags that are like in the background, or like if you're paying attention, you see gags in the background. And it's not a lot of them. It's not like one of my favorite movies that does this is called Spy. I think it's called Spy. Spy is a movie with Melissa McCarthy and Jason Statham. And in that movie, it's like 1,000 jokes a minute. It's so many jokes that are packed in that movie. And I love that in a comedy. It's like you have to see it 3 or 4 times to catch all of the jokes. And that's what I love. Now, House Party doesn't have as many jokes packed in the movie, but there are a fair amount of jokes in the movie that I really enjoy. And there are a lot of like subtle or casual jokes. Like one of the jokes is when Kid's father comes in to wake him up, and he's told, Kid's father, he made breakfast. So he says, I just made breakfast and come down here and eat this shit. And Kid wakes up and he says, it would be more appetizing if you didn't call it shit pops, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. Also, I wanted to note that Kid's father works at night. He mentions that a bunch of times in the movie. And that monologue that I read in the beginning, that actually happens at the end of the movie, because Pops is upset that because he found out that Kid snuck out of the house against what his pop told him explicitly not to do. Because he told him explicitly that he could not go to the party. Kid went to the party anyway. Kid tries to sneak home, and Pop catches him and proceeds to whip his ass. So that was, and so that monologue was from Kid getting beaten. And that was funny. But what's interesting is that I wanted to examine that Pop works at night. So he works at night. He comes home. He's tired. But even though he's tired, he makes breakfast for himself. Well, his son, presumably. Maybe he makes breakfast for himself and his son. But he makes breakfast. He makes a full meal after working a full day at work. And then he goes to bed. So Kid comes downstairs. He sees this breakfast spread. The type that you normally see in movies, the pancakes, eggs, grits, everything for breakfast. Like his father went to town making breakfast. And I thought, this man really loves his son to go through all of that work, to make sure that his son, first of all, is awake so that he can go to school. And then second of all, to make this huge breakfast. So it's kind of, so in that, I think it's kind of understanding that his father was upset that his son, basically disobeyed the rules. Another funny thing is you have Full Force as high school student. Now, Kid and Play, and most of the actors, can barely pass as high school students. Just barely. But there's no way you can accept Full Force as high school students. They look like full-grown men going to high school. And they are gigantic. It's they're not small bullies. They're very large men. Except for, two of them are large. Look like they stay in the gym. And they have the small member, it's like a 3-man group. So the short guy of the group, his name is Pee-wee in the film. And so he's that guy that hangs around the big guys for protection, I guess. That's part of his gang. He's the instigator. You always have to have the little guy to instigate problems. And then one of the other comic gag is when Kid gets into a fight with Full Force, the bullies, just by bumping into him. Basically, he bumps into one of the guys a couple of times by accident, and so the guy decides that he wants to. That's enough. It's basically the guy is using that little accident as an excuse to beat up Kid, and at first Kid tries to fight, but then they quickly turn that around. They lift him. One of them, I can't remember which one it was. I guess it was Stab, being Paul Anthony, or it could have been Zilla. I'm not sure. They all kind of look alike. Those two guys, they kind of look alike. I wasn't trying to differentiate him, the two of those guys. Because they're both fairly big. They're about the same size. They got the same haircut. The only one that's notably different is Pee-wee, because he's shorter and rounder, and he has more of a, he looks older than the two of them. He looks like he's almost in his 40s. So one of the guys, he lifts Kid up with one hand and starts punching him with the other hand. And like I said, Pee-wee is the little guy that's instigating him. And so the big guy who's got Kid up in the air, he hits him one time, he hits him another time. And then Pee-wee says, wait. Okay, now. And then hits him a third time. And then, the big guy throws Kid to the other side of the room or whatever, or throws him into the principal or one of the teachers, and the teachers break up the fight. And then they both have to go to the principal's office. And the reason that Kid have fought back is because one of them called his mother a hoe, and he was he was not going to stand for that. Kid's mother had died, so he's very sensitive about his mother being called names. So the dude called his mother a hoe, and then that's when he tries to throw a punch, and then the bully catches the punch, lifts him in the air, hits him in his face with, and then throws him. They end up in the principal's office. And the gag in the principal's office is like when the principal says, "Why did you call his mother a garden tool?" Which is almost funny. But the fight itself was just a comedy version of a fight. And I thought that was pretty funny. And also you had Pee-wee, and he had this funny way of talking. And one of the things he's constantly saying is that, "I'm going to kick your fucking ass." And that was a gag that was used throughout the entire film. There's even a time when someone says it and it's not him. They'll say it in that exact cadence. So that's just a funny thing that they use throughout the film. I really like that chemistry between Robin Harris and Kid. That it looked like a real relationship. Robin Harris is really showing some real potential as an actor. And it was like he's trying to have a heartfelt conversation with his son. How the relationship like changes from being like affectionate to contentious, because it's a father trying to raise his son and a kid being hard-headed. So I don't know. There's just something about their relationship that really kind of works. There's another funny part that I really like. It's a gag where Play goes over to Malik's house. Malik is a DJ, and so he has all of this DJ equipment. And being a DJ back in the 1990s is very different from being a DJ today. Like, being a DJ today, the laptop does most of the work. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting. And so, a laptop, some speakers, some microphone. And I don't know. I'm not a DJ. I don't know exactly all of the equipment that a DJ today uses, but I know it's a lot less than what you had to use in the 1990s, because there are a lot of things that have been miniaturized. A lot of things are a lot smaller now than where they were in the analog era of the 1990s. So not only does Bilal have all of this DJ equipment, but at the same time, Play is using his mother's car. His mother has a very small car, like early model Honda Accord or something. I forgot exactly what model it was, but it was very small. And then he already had like some kind of girlfriend in the car, like some girl that he was whacking on was in the front seat. So the girl is in the front seat, and he's supposed to bring both Bilal and all of his equipment to the party. It's like his equipment, his records, all of these things that they're trying to jam into the car. And so Bilal is, well, not Bilal, but it's more like Play is trying to cram all this stuff in the car. He's scratching up all of his like speakers and equipment, trying to cram it into the car. And Bilal is losing his ever-loving mind because Play is just messing up all of his equipment, trying to cram it into this tiny ass car. All of his records, his microphone, just everything is being crammed into the car. And Bilal's losing his mind. It's like, "Man, you gotta stop. What are you doing? You gotta, you're scratching up my shit. And Martin Lawrence is just putting in work, losing his mind. And that's a great part. And Play is just acting like real nonchalant. Like, this is natural. It's fine. It'll be okay. Because Play, for the most part, during most of the movie, is the type of person where he's like, everything is fine. Everything will work out. That's his complete attitude. Very nonchalant. Just solving problems wherever he goes, or pretends that problems don't exist. So after they squeeze everything in a car, there's like no room in the car for anything else except for Play to get into the driver's seat. And now now Bilal is still mad because now he can't get into the car. Like, he wants to travel with his equipment, which makes sense. And it's like, and now Bilal's like, "Your girl gonna have to get out. She gonna have to get out the car. She gonna have to get out the car. And cause I want to be with my equipment." And Play is already in the driver's seat. So he's like, "I'm gonna come back. Don't worry. I'm gonna come back." And it's like, "No, Play, you better not do this. You better not do this." And so that's what I mean by how Play has a way of abusing his friends. Like, he knew he had to go over and get Bilal and get his equipment. Why did he have to bring a woman with him? That doesn't make any sense, because he's thinking more about himself than of his friends. And so he kind of leaves Bilal hanging. He drives over, he drives the car over to the house, and then comes back in an hour to pick up Bilal. And this time he has even more girls in the car. Now the car is filled with girls. I'm surprised that he would even conceive that there's any more room in the car for anybody else. There's like 2 in the front seat and 3 in the back. How is there any more room in this tiny car? So he goes to get Bilal. Bilal is sitting on his front step, and he's like, I ain't going. He's like, come on, Bilal. He's like, I ain't going. And so finally, he talks about the girls in the car. He's like, there are way too many girls for me. You know that there are some for you. And then, so with the girls in the car, that's when Bilal relents and gets in the car to go to the party. And Bilal has this issue with girls because in school, he's known as Dragon Breath Bilal. And the reason that he's known as Dragon Breath Bilal is because apparently he has bad breath. He might even have halitosis. Like, that's just his reputation among the girls, is that he has bad breath. And they all call him Dragon Breath Bilal. They try to avoid him. They don't want to dance with him. They don't really want to talk to him, because if they talk to him, then they have to smell his breath. So he apparently has an issue that he doesn't yet recognize. And that's another joke that's used throughout much of the film. And that's just fun. Kid trying to get to the party, and like, he gets home, and his first tactic is that he knows that the school is either going to call his father or they're going to send a letter. And this is fun times. This is back in the day when you can basically intercept a phone call. Like, somebody important's trying to call your house and you don't want them to talk to your parents. So one of the tactics that you might do is that you might leave the phone off the hook. And so every time somebody tries to call, it would just go to, the phone would not pick up. It would show that the phone is busy. Or you might try to answer the call before they do. So all the phone lines are hooked up to one phone number. So no matter what phone you pick up, it's the same phone number. And that's one of the things, that nobody has a cell phone in this house. And most people didn't have a cell phone in this era. So there was a way where Play could conceivably intercept a phone call. And so he was trying these different tactics. But these tactics weren't really working because his father was watching him. So, and Play didn't know exactly if it was going to be a phone call or a letter. And then somebody slips a letter through the mail slot. But the problem is that the father catches, well, he doesn't see, he knows, his father knows that mail came in, and Play goes to pick it up. And so the father is like, well, bring it over here, bring me the letter. And Play has no choice but to hand the letter to the father. So both things failed. He wasn't able to intercept the letter to keep his father from seeing it, and he wasn't able to intercept the phone call, even though the school didn't call his father anyway. At the time the letter came in, the father was on the phone, and that's when he asked for the letter. Father looks at the letter while he's on the phone, and then he says, let me go. I gotta go and talk to my kid. And the father was waiting for an important phone call anyway, because he wanted to work some overtime. So he's waiting for a call to get overtime. So that was one of the reasons why trying to intercept the call wasn't going to work anyway, because the father was specifically waiting to use the phone. And that's why he was on the phone. He was getting overtime. He gets his letter, his son, and he sees that his son's in trouble. He's like, let me get off the phone. I got to talk to my son. And when he goes upstairs to talk to his son, it's like, when was you going to tell me about this? And they have this conversation about the bullies, with mom being called a hoe, and his father telling them that, you can't go to this party because, you done gotten in a fight. You staying home tonight. The only thing you got to do is homework. So now Kid he has to figure out how to get to the party because he's absolutely determined to get to the party. So he waits for his father to go to sleep. He sneaks out the window. But now there are other things that he has to deal with. He has to deal with racist cops who stop him just because he's walking down the street at night. They literally start harassing Kid as he's walking down the street. And then they realize that they ran out of donuts. So they stop harassing him because they wanted to go get more donuts. So at that moment, Kid was saved by donuts. And then you had the bullies, and they're just kind of like driving down the street in their Jeep, and they happen to see Kid. And so now they start to pursue him because they got in trouble too because of the fight. And now they want to engage some more. It's like they want to punish him because they got punished. So a lot of the movie are the antics of Kid running away from full force. There was a point where Kid had jumped over a fence and he's in somebody's yard and he can see into the house in one of the windows, because one of the windows, there's no blinds or curtains, and there's a man having sex with his wife or girlfriend or whatever. And Kid is just looking in there, looking in the window, just kind of being a peeping Tom, at the same time being pursued by full force. And they see where he had gone. They see the fence where he should be behind at this house. So they actually start to climb the fence to try to get the Kid. In the meantime, Kid is basically a peeping Tom watching this dude and this girl. And then the dude notices that Kid is staring at them. So they stop and he reaches into a drawer or something, pulls out a gun and starts shooting at Kid. As soon as the dude spots Kid gets up and he hops over the fence. But the guy is still shooting through, I'm not sure if he opens the window or if the window was already open, but he starts basically shooting at Kid, but at the same time shooting at full force, who happen to be on the other side of the fence. Another thing that happens is that while Kid is running away from full force, Kid runs into this party. It's like an adult get together. It's more like, it looked like it could be a semi-corporate party where it's a bunch of upper class, rich black people who are at this party. It looks like a kind of black tie event, but it's outdoors. And he runs into this party and he knows he's being pursued. So he runs to the DJ, because at first the people notice him as a nuisance, but they don't actively try to stop him. So he gets to the DJ and he asks, and the DJ happens to be George Clinton, and he asks the DJ to play something that he could rap to. So he's trying to rap to the DJ's music, but it's not something that the people at this party are interested in. They're much older. They're not all that interested in rap music. And so they're kind of just looking at him in confusion, trying to get them to dance or whatever. And then full force comes in, and then they cause a ruckus. When they cause a ruckus, the same police that had stopped Kid earlier had happened to be in the area. And so now they're there, and they got full force and Kid under arrest. They're basically like on the sidewalk, on their knees with their hands above their head. And you got one cop like just pointing a gun at them. These guys are really hyper about pointing their guns at unarmed people. The people at the party refuse to press charges. This is mainly because they see what these kids did does not rise to the level of incarceration, at least in their eyes. They don't want to press charges because they know how the system works, and they don't want to be part of the problem that these kids would get into. So they're trying to let them go. It's like, sure, there ought to be consequences, but not consequences that are available at the criminal justice level. It's like, it's not that serious. They would rather forgive the kids than to have them face the type of problems that they would run into in the criminal justice system. And it kind of mirrors the ongoing problems that we're still seeing today. school to prison pipeline. And these folks just don't want to be a part of it. And yeah, sure, there are some offenses that rise to the level of incarceration, but I think most of it don't. And it's like now today you've seen like kids being arrested in elementary schools for like very minor offenses. And these are things that just need more consideration. There are incidents, I think there are more instances that require either light punishment or forgiveness than there are that require any type of intervention by the police department. So the police tell them to go home, and he makes sure that the kids, like the full force kids and kid, walk in different directions. So like full force they don't just resume their chase of kid. Meanwhile, at the party, one of the things that happens at the party is that apparently there is no food at the party, which is weird. Like normally when you have a party, there is food at a party. That's one of the reasons why you go to a party. But at this particular party, one of the guests asked about like, where's the food at? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, we ran out of food. There's no more food. You can go to the corner store down the street. And I'm like, that's just wild. You're throwing a party with hardly any food. And meanwhile, while the party's going on, and you know that obviously there's a lot of ruckus at a party next door, there's a neighbor, and he talks about like he's trying to tell them, he's yelling out the window trying to get them to either shut down a party or keep the noise down or something like that. And this is John Witherspoon as Mr. Strickland, and he's just yelling out the window, trying to keep the party from making noise because he's trying to sleep and he has to get up and go to work in the morning. And he does it in that John Witherspoon way. So it's just the thing about John Witherspoon, it's not really his lines that are funny. It is the way he delivers the line. And that's why when he's in a comedy, he's always funny because you just have a goofy way of delivering his lines that's incredibly entertaining. And he does so in this, like, I couldn't just tell you like the things that he said and expect you to understand the impact that his presence had. But all I can do is impress upon you just how funny John Witherspoon is as Mr. Strickland. One of the things he noted is that he paid $15,000 for his house. And I'm just impressed with that price point. Like imagine only having to spend $15,000 on a house. I'm like, how is that possible? Like you can't even adjust it for inflation in order for that to make sense today. Like today, if you adjusted it strictly for inflation, that's $37,000 or around $37,300. And there aren't any houses that cost that much in 2026. That's impossible. Not even a tiny house, not even like a house that's that's on not even what do you call those things? Not even a mobile home you can get for that. I don't even know if there are any tiny homes, like one of those homes that's like only one room with a kitchen and a bathroom kind of built into it. It's like, I can't see it. It seems impossible. Even in 1990, I don't see how he could have paid $15,000 for his house. And it's probable that he meant $150,000. I feel like that would make more sense if you would adjust $150,000 for inflation. You get a price point of $373,000, which it feels more realistic. But still, to find a house for over $300,000 or just around $300,000 in today's housing market, that would be a struggle. Like you. And then that house is probably dilapidated. Like obviously it depends on the housing market, but I think they're in Chicago. So in Chicago can you even find a house for $300,000 in Chicago? I'm spending too much time on this subject. But it seems like a lot. One of the things he says is that that's kind of funny is, what is that? You listen to Public Enema? Is that Public Enema? Who is Public Enema? What is Public Enema anyway? So that's kind of funny. And by this time, Kid makes it to the house. Well, he makes it to the party. Gets to the party, and you know, everybody's having a good time. There are a lot of great gags in there. One of the greatest things about this movie that people usually remember it for is the dance contest. So there's a dance contest between Kid and Play and Shireen and Sydney. So the dance kind of starts off with Kid basically starting off with his funky Charleston, and the girl's looking at him like, you know, the dance is whack or whatever. And Kid's like, well, you can't do it. And so that's where, you know, they start this dance off between each other. Kid and Play basically does the dance that they're famous for, the one that you see in the Kid and Play videos, and what I presume that they did in most of their concerts. So the dance contest was fire. And then what was also awesome was one of my favorite part was as I mentioned, there was a rap rivalry between Kid and Play. So in this movie, they're not a group, they're just two friends, and they're not rapping together, they're rapping against each other. What kind of sparks this battle is that Kid specifically wanted to go to the party because he had written this new rap and he wanted to rap it at the party. You see him early in the film working on this rap, and he can't wait to do this rap at the party. And while he was being chased by the goons, he had lost his notes for the rap that he wrote. But he still wants to rap at the party. When he gets to the party, there's only one microphone, and besides the DJ's microphone, and that microphone is reserved for Play, because Play is going to rap, and presumably he's not going to allow anybody else to rap. This is upsetting for Kid. Kid manages a way to get a hold of the mic. And so that basically it initiates the rap battle where Kid and Play are battling against each other. And the song that they're singing is Kid versus Play. And it's a pretty decent song. It was very entertaining. And it's one of my favorite moments in the movie. Another neat moment was during the movie. This is closer to like the end of the party, where one of the dudes, he gets really drunk. He's trying to impress upon people just how manly he is by drinking this malt liquor or whatever. But then it like takes him out. He's like passed out at either the front door or the back door. And they have to, like, but Play and one of the other guests, they have to get up this drunk dude off the floor. And they decide to walk him home. And when they walk him home, they lean him against the door. They knock on the door and then they run away. Somebody opens the door and the dude just falls on his face. And that's pretty funny. And I guess that's what you get for just falling asleep at a party. There's also an instance where during the party, Full Force shows up. And because this is a party with friends, you know, they're naturally, Full Force is not invited to this party. And so they start teasing them from inside the house. You know, they start joning and whatnot, calling them names. It's name calling back and forth. So now the members, the bullies are upset. They're upset because they're shamed. They were emasculated and shamed, and they decided they were going to show them what for. So I think it was Stab, one of the bullies, who decided they're going to burn down the house, which is crazy. Just crazy thinking. He just drives around with a container of gasoline in his car. So they get the container of gasoline. They start dumping it around the perimeter of the house. And as they're doing this, they get caught by the same police officers. Apparently, the city only has these two cops who had been harassing both Kid and the bullies pretty much that whole night. And so they get the bullies into the car. They drive, and instead of like calling it in or taking them to the precinct, or instead of arresting them like they're supposed to, they decide they're going to take them to some secluded area and just beat the crap out of them and then let them go. It don't seem to me that the police ever face any real consequences for their horrible conduct and violating the civil rights of other people. They don't have any consequence for their racism. And it seems to mirror real life, almost the same way that Kid doesn't really face any consequences for abusing his friends. It's like they don't, particularly his DJ Bilal. So it seems to me that one of the kind of subliminal messages for this film is that sometimes people do bad things and just get away with it. Like sometimes there aren't any consequences for bad behavior. And that's very unsettling, because even though, like at the very end of the movie, there's the movie opens with a dream sequence of a house being blown off, with a roof being blown off a house. But this is a dream sequence. And then at the end of the movie, in the closing credit, this same roof that had been blown off of the house, they land on top of the officers. But this is probably part of a dream sequence. This is not a real consequence, because no actual roof had been blown off a house. So, I mean, it's kind of satisfying if you're an audience member and you see that, but you got to come to the realization that this is a dream. And so the police face no consequences. And that just mirrors real life. And it's very unsettling. I mentioned that Shireen and Sydney had like kind of a rivalry specifically over Kid. It's like they both kind of like Kid. And Kid kind of likes Shireen. I mean, he'll talk to both Sydney and Shireen. But Shireen seems to show interest in him, so he responds to that interest and he's trying to talk Shireen. Or he's trying to talk to Shireen. Like when they're at a party and there's one girl that's dancing with Kid, and while Kid is dancing with this girl, he's actually paying more attention to Shireen and disrespecting this girl by openly looking at somebody else while he's dancing with her. So that was kind of funny, because you could see how she felt disrespected on her face as she's dancing with Kid, and how Kid was real excited when he was dancing with Shireen. And so during the party, he's trying to talk to Shireen, and then there's one part where, he's walking Shireen and Sydney home, and Shireen suggests that, they decide that they maybe could go on a date, but they don't kiss. And then he walks Sydney home. But the thing is like, while they were at Shireen's house, Sydney and Shireen have a conversation, and now she's kind of upset with Shireen because Shireen had basically told Sydney that, she didn't think Kid was all that great. Like Kid was too childlike or too immature or too kid-like. And so she really wasn't interested. And so because Sydney liked Kid, it seemed to give her an opening to basically shoot her shot with Kid. But because Shireen it's almost like Shireen changed her mind, and so that's why she started coming on to Kid. Kid started coming on to her, and now the door for Sydney to be with Kid had been closed. And so they have this conversation. And Shireen is more like a player. She's kind of like Play, and that Play is the type of dude that it's like he'll go with whatever girl, whatever. He doesn't really he's not trying to have any real attachment or any real relationship with a woman. He's basically just doing it for the sex. And Shireen is kind of the same way. And so Shireen tells Sydney that, well, if you want Kid, just take him from me. Like if you think that you've got the moxie, then just take him from me. Because she took Kid because she could, not because like she had any genuine affection for him. It was just an exercise to explore her sexual prowess, I guess. Sydney is not the type of person to try to just take somebody. It's like there's a sense of honor about her. And it's like, it seems dishonorable to just try to take somebody that seemed to be promised to somebody else. But Shireen just tells her, like, if you want him, you should take him and see if you can take him from me. And Sydney's uneasy with this prospect. But Kid walks Sydney home and they start having a conversation, but they're having a real conversation. Like they're actually getting to know each other. So he knows her in a way that he does not know Shireen. And they discover that they have common interests and they have that they're similar in a way that attracts Sydney to Kid. And now she wants to know that, is it going to be her or is it going to be Shireen? Kid tells Sydney that he wants to be with Sydney because he knows now, because of their walk home, he knows Sydney in a way that he does not know Shireen. And so they start to get together in a very real way. And in a real way, it's like they almost have sex, but they can't because neither of them have protection. And then Sydney's parents come home and now Play has to get out the house before he's caught. So that's a fun comic moment. Later on in the movie, Sydney and Shireen, they're actually getting together because of something that happened with Kid that I'll talk about in a minute. But then Sydney tells Shireen that she had taken Kid from her. And then Shireen has the nerve to get upset. But then she recognizes that was the game that she played. She told Sydney to try to take Kid from her, and Sydney took Kid from her. And so reconciling with that, she has to give Sydney her props, right? And the two remain friends. Like they don't get into a beef over it. And that is what I mean. While one of the strong things about this film is friendship, is because they're able to have a conflict, but they're able to get past the conflict and have a real friendship in a real way. After Kid's escape from Sydney's home, he escapes because her parents come home. Coincidentally, her parents, they're part of the same group from the party that Kid was at when he was confronted by Full Force, or the Full Force bullies, early in the movie. This was that bougie party where he ran into those wealthy black folk. And he actually bumped into a couple of them pretty hard. And one of the people that he bumped into was Sydney's mother. But nothing ever really comes of this, because it doesn't seem like anybody ever finds out that Kid was the person responsible for kind of disrupting the party. When the parents get home, they never see Kid. Kid basically gets away scot-free. But after he escapes, Kid gets confronted with Full Force again. Like they find him again because they're riding around in their Jeep. But this time they're once again confronted by these same two police officers, and they get caught and they get put in jail. Also early in the film, before actually Kid leaves the party, Kid's father comes to the party because Kid's father is looking for Kid. But on his way to the party, Pops is stopped by the same two police officers, and they start harassing him, claiming that he fits the description. And they start harassing him, but Pops shows no respect, or that he's not giving any ground for these police officers. The only time that he gives pause is when they start just pointing their guns at him, like unwarranted, because it's not like he has a weapon out. He doesn't even look like somebody suspicious. They just basically stopped him because he was a black dude walking down the street. And Pops calls him out on that. And then, and then this is funny because this is how I found out the officer's name. Because in the credits, they're only credited as cop number 1 and cop number 2. But when Pops is like, when they're harassing when they're harassing Pops and, they're patting him down for weapons or whatever. And Pops is like, don't think I don't know how to read badge numbers, Officer Boyd and Officer Ranowski, right? He basically tells them that he's going to call the precinct and file a harassment report. This film has a lot of Robin Harris's jokes, mostly the jokes from his CD, Baby's Kids. So that's when he tells the cops, yeah, I'm from a town called Fresh Off a Cop's Ass and I'm feeling homesick. So a lot of his lines come directly from that CD. And that was one of the lines. So that was a real funny moment. So like he gets to the party, he's trying to find Kid. He's just like, I know he's here. And he runs into Sydney, and Sydney kind of runs interference. She's like, oh no, you can't go upstairs because Play doesn't want anybody to go upstairs to his mom's room. And like, I'm here watching the stairs and Kid's not here. We hadn't seen Kid. Pop starts joning on the kids at the party. He talks about one kid with a jerry curl. He talks about some other kid with a Muslim name. A lot of these jokes when he's joining the kids, a lot of these jokes are from that same comedy album. So I encourage you to go look for Robin Harris Baby's Kids. It's one of the first comedy albums I ever bought. It's one of the funniest things that I listen to. I used to listen to it all the time. I don't listen to it now because after listening to a comedy album a dozen times, the jokes just aren't as funny anymore. But maybe I'll go and revisit that album because I feel like enough time has passed where I can laugh at those jokes again. So anyway, Pops goes home after not finding Kid, and Kid is in jail. Kid has to there are a bunch of dudes in this jail, and they're all gigantic, and for some reason they all want to sexually assault Kid. Like, for some reason, every single one of them, and it's like, it's a jail. It's like you haven't been in there that long. But as soon as Kid gets in there, they decide that like he's the one that they want to gang rape. There's one dude that's kind of like not part of the rest of the prisoners that are in this jail. And that guy tells him, well, Richard Pryor said that when he didn't want to be raped, he just told jokes to keep their mind off of thinking about raping him. And so Kid doesn't know any jokes, but he knows how to rap. So he does this rap to distract them from trying to rape him. But the rap doesn't really work because they are still attacking him. And actually, before this happened, Kid actually gets a call out, and the one call that he makes to Play to get bail money to get him out of jail. He doesn't want to call his father. He doesn't want his father to know how much trouble he's in. He doesn't want his father to know that he's in jail. Like, it's bad enough that he snuck out to go to a party, but now he has to call his father and tell him he's in jail. He doesn't want to do that, so he calls Play, and Play goes around try to gather up all the friends and basically he's doing a collection to get Kid out of jail. First he talks to Madal, who basically only has a couple of dollars, and you see him pick up Shireen and Sydney. When Sydney finds out that Play is in trouble, she immediately, is down to clown, and she gets out of bed to go and join Play. Shireen had to be coerced, but Sydney, she's immediately wanting to help Play. And it's on this ride to the jail where Sydney tells Shireen that she had taken Play from her. And the other thing is that we have to presume that basically Play went around to the different friends to pull a collection, because that was his suggestion. Like, we're going to have to go to the kids that went to the party to get some money to help get Kid out of jail. And Bilal was like, but you just kicked him out. Like, earlier in the movie, Play had basically called the party off and shut the party down early because somebody had crapped in his toilet and had broken the toilet, so they couldn't flush the doo-doo down the toilet. So he's upset because they're breaking stuff in the house. And obviously this is his parents' house. So he called off the party, kicking all the kids out. Now he has to go and find these kids, doing a collection to get Kid, his friend, out of jail. So right at the end of Kid's rap, when he's rapping to keep the dudes from trying to rape him, that's when the guards come and they pull him out of jail because his bail has been made. So apparently Play was successful. And then he gets out of jail. He sees all of his friends, his closest friends, basically waiting there to receive him. And that's a very touching moment. It's very cool. And so Play gives everybody a ride home. And that's when Kid, he's trying to sneak up in his house. He doesn't get away, and he doesn't get away with it because just as he's getting to bed, that's when his father shows up with a strap and he snaps the strap and is like, oh, I wouldn't do that yet. And then at the end of the movie, that's like while the credits rolling, that's when you hear Pops doing this monologue at the same time, presumably whipping Kid with the strap. We don't actually see it. We see the credits, but the monologue is funny. And then there's like I mentioned, a mid-credit scene where the roof that had been blown off the top of the house in Kid's dream in the beginning of the movie lands on the cops at the end of the movie. But that's probably just a dream. As I said before, I mean, it feels satisfying, but at the same time, this is something that is probably just a dream. And that's it for Kid and Play. It was just as funny when I watched it on this rewatch as I had when I first watched it. And the other thing is that I hadn't watched it in a long time. And then I have a lot more empathy for Pops because I am myself a father, and I understand the frustration of hard-headed kids. Right? When I first watched this movie, it's like I didn't understand, and now I understand. But I can also empathize with being a teenager because I remember being in that position, and I remember. Yeah, well, it's not like a strong memory. I'm over 50 years old, but those feelings when you're a teenager and you're trying to do stuff and you feel the restraints that your parents put on you. I remember those restraints. So, yeah, fantastic. So that's it for our favorite parts. What are some of your favorite parts? Were there some parts of the movie that I missed out on or that you really enjoyed that I didn't really talk about? Let me know. Drop me a line at friends@backlookcinema.com. And now that we have talked about some of these parts, let's check out the top 10 trivia. So most of this trivia I got from IMDb. It's more robust than I expected. So one of the very interesting things that I found out was that Robin Harris and John Witherspoon improvised most of their lines. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, much of Harris's dialogue came directly from his popular comedy album, Bebe's Kids. And John Witherspoon, you just got to let him do what he's going to do, right? He's basically, when you bring him in a film, you explain the situation, you tell him to be funny, and he will be funny. During the party at Play's house, all of the dance sequences were done with no music, and this is typical of party scenes. Usually when you see a party scene being filmed, it's usually filmed with no music, and then the people that you think are talking are not talking. They're just basically moving their lips. A.J. Johnson choreographed her and Tisha Campbell's routine for the battle. The toe touch and kicks were actually signature moves for Kid and Play. They had become very popular as backup dancers for Salt and Pepper. I did not know that. Using these and more acrobatic stunts. The music was added after the dancing had been shot. So yeah, that makes sense. This movie, House Party, was filmed at Play's real-life home in Los Angeles, California. So yeah, that'll shove a couple of $1 million off your budget. And man, I am surprised. And also, he has a really nice house. Or he had a nice house at the time. House Party was originally offered to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, whose real name is Will Smith. This happened because New Line Cinema won a lawsuit against them due to their song A Nightmare on My Street, which, let me pause right here to suggest that this is incredible, because this is A Nightmare on My Street is a song that's on their album He's the DJ, I'm a Rapper, and it is a parody. It is a parody of a film. How can a studio successfully sue an artist over a parody? I don't understand that. All I can surmise is that DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince did not have great lawyers, because parodies get a pass, and I don't understand how their song didn't. But anyway, one of the conditions were that they had to appear in a New Line Cinema film. A thread of this dynamic is that the film features a friendship between a DJ and his MC, and this perfectly fits the dynamic of Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Director Reginald Hudlin refused to cast them in the movie based on that term. Like he didn't want someone who had been cajoled into being the movie. He wanted people who had, and even Play, when he talked about being cast for this movie, it was not something that they were immediately enthralled to engage in. They were very cautious about doing this movie, but Kid and Play did the movie, and the rest is history. This was the final film released before the death of Robin Harris, who died 9 days after the movie was released of a heart attack on March 18th, 1990. He was only 35 years old. However, it was not the last one, as he appeared in Mo Better Blues from 1990, which was released approximately 5 months after he died. House Party was based on a film short that served as the thesis film for director Reginald Hudlin for his Harvard University degree. So that's great. That's pretty awesome. He made this, and this happens every once in a while where a director will do a student film and they eventually expand it to a feature film. And I think that happened with George Lucas. He did a film called THX something. I can't remember the numbers. 1686, 1787. Hold on. I am going to look this up. THX 1138. So this was a student film that George Lucas did, and then he later, I think he made a feature film with it. I'm pretty sure he did. At any rate, I think that this is just fantastic. John Witherspoon and Bebe Drake also played husband and wife in the movie Boomerang, released in 1992, also directed by Reginald Hudlin. Some of the cast's real age was much older than the characters that they were playing. Martin Lawrence was 25, Kid was 26, and Play was 28. But they were supposed to be high school students. Robin Harris was only 36 years old, 10 years older than Kid, who played his son. Which is interesting because I feel like they convincingly played father and son. And I think it's because Robin Harris, he do look like somebody who was older. And I think he can play older or he can play younger. He was kind of in that age range, but he favors older. Part of it because he's overweight, and a lot of that translate to kind of looking older. And Kid was, I don't want to say he's childlike, but he favors a youthful appearance. Even though he was like 26 years old, he could almost fool you into thinking that he was a high school student. The license plate on the car that Play drives throughout the movie is GZA 932. The Gizza is a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. His name is spelled GZA. And on fellow Wu-Tang member Old Dirty Bastard's album, Return of the 36 Chambers, one song contains the phrase, Chamber number 9, verse 32. 932 from the license plate, although it is unknown whether this is just a coincidence. I don't know, it's very close. It'd be an incredible coincidence. Finally, the first 3 movies in the House Party film series begin with Kid's character having a dream of some sort. In this film, he dreams of a party and the roof being blown off of a house. In the Pajama Jam, he has a nightmare about attending college. And in House Party 3, he dreams about his upcoming marriage. In the mid-credit sequence, the roof of the house that is blown off in Play's dream come crashing down on the 2 police officers who had been harassing and violating the civil rights of Kid, his father, and the school bullies, presumably killing them. It is unclear if this was a dream. And of course, I talked about this earlier. That's it for the trivia. Let's see what the critics thought. The critics have it at 94%. The audience score is at 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb Reviews finds it at 6.5 out of 10. And this is interesting because usually there is a small gap between IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is usually maybe 10 points above what shows on IMDb Reviews, but on this, it looks like almost 20 points, and this is unusual. It's more like 15 points, I guess. And I don't know why. It feels like IMDb Reviews is very low, and I don't understand why it's as low as it is. Maybe because a lot of the people who remember House Party, they didn't go and start and put their reviews in for the film, because I'm sure it should be higher, but I'm not exactly sure for the discrepancy. And I'm surprised also that the critics liked it more than the regular audience. This is surprising. As a matter of fact, I had a really hard time finding negative reviews on the Rotten Tomato website. And in fact, only had one negative review that was actually written out, and the other negative review, you're supposed to click on it to see what the review is, and the link was dead. So in this instance, I only have one negative review for House Party. Leo Brady from amovieguy.com wrote, "To discover House Party is to feel an electric jolt of pure joy. It radiates from the cast, and the production is happiness. A kind of chemistry that can't be quantified but is unmistakably on screen." And I have to agree with that. Richard Friedman from Newark Star Ledger wrote, "One's enjoyment of House Party, I suspect, will be largely dictated by one's tolerance for teenage energy. Because there's not much else going on in this amiable but overlong and underplotted movie." That's interesting. This is the one bad review. And he's not necessarily saying anything bad. He's just saying that this film is not for him, which is fair. It is, because this is an older gentleman. He's not a teenager. It's not something, he cannot relate to how adolescents function or get along. It's like youth culture is very different from adult culture. And sometimes it doesn't translate to adults watching the film, and that's fair, right? So a movie can be a phenomenon and at the same time not really translate to certain audiences. So, this is, I'm not going to say I agree with the sentiment, but I can understand why some people, as a matter of fact, I will say it. I do agree with this because I agree that you have to have, it depends on your tolerance for teenagers and teenage energy as to whether or not you like the film. If you can tolerate the teenage energy, then you will enjoy it. And I happen to have a fair amount of tolerance for teenage energy. And also, when I originally watched the film, I was not that far out of my teenage years. So I think maybe I was 19 or 20 years old when I saw this movie. So yeah, I was definitely into this culture. Desan Thompson from the Washington Post wrote, fast moving, never dull, extremely funny, and manages to touch with lightheartedness and R-rated profundity on almost every youthful issue you can imagine, including police harassment, teenage sex, and the all too easy road to jail and alcohol drinking. They didn't touch on drug use, though. What's interesting about this film is that in a lot of films of this type, you're going to see people smoking blunts, but I don't think there was anybody in this film smoking a joint or a blunt or even cigarettes. And I think that was a very conscious decision. So that's pretty interesting. Finally, the Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert wrote, House Party is silly and high-spirited and not particularly significant, and that's just as it should be. And I think that means that sometimes you got to have film where you can just go and enjoy the movie and not worry about it making like a strong commentary on society. I mean, even though House Party did make some significant commentary on like police harassment and civil rights, but it was kind of played for fun. The whole movie wasn't about police harassment, even though it was a significant element in the movie. It was more about friendship and loyalty and just the chemistry between friends. At last, House Party is, as of this recording, available for purchase wherever you get your digital or physical media. Well, party people, this celebration is winding down. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here because someone broke my toilet. However, I offer my sincere thanks for attending this house party. I'm sure that we all had a great time. The next conversation will probably not be so celebratory as we extend our Black History Month into March. We'll take a look at one of the most impactful films that came out in the 1990s, Boys in the Hood. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and sometimes Twitter at Backlook Cinema. Please contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at friends@backlookcinema.com. Please rate and review on your favorite podcast app. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like or subscribe or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. One last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlook Cinema, the podcast. Believe me, it matters. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones. And if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.